we go. There we go. Okay. All right, so option A, as I just mentioned, is to come and you are lying on your front, prone on the floor, with your forehead on the floor. You might like to have just something under your forehead if you feel that that might make you more comfortable. However, if that isn't going to be comfortable for you, for instance, you could try putting if the front of your hip bones press hard into the floor, as I know is the case for some of you when you lie on your front, or even when you take Sphinx pose, you could put a folded blanket just underneath the front of the hips. But you might also find that that's helpful here to support the chest, okay? So if that's the case for you. But if you think, I don't want to be on my front, then your alternative option is to come into supported child's pose. So I've got my feet, big toes together, bottom towards the heels. If it's a struggle to get the bottom onto the heels, folded up blanket or a cushion there is a great option. And then you might like to put some props underneath your cushions, your pillows, your bolster, and you're coming down into this position. But again, I would really like your forehead to be down. So it might also be useful here to have something across whatever support you're lying onto, just to take the forehead so you're not squashing your nose or the front of your face and you're able to breathe more easily. Okay, so yogi's choice for the first pose. But I want you to feel, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in just a second, but I do want you to feel as though you can surrender your body weight to the earth. And lying on your front is a really beautiful opportunity for that. And it's not one that I often offer in my yin classes, but I happen to think it's actually a really lovely, because you'll see, so for those of you that have opted for this lying on your front position, go for it, okay? Enjoy it, and you'll see why in maybe even a minute or two's time. For those of you that are thinking, no, this is not for me, you're going to lie on your front in a supported child's pose, okay? So come into the pose now. Choose whatever variation that you feel is most appropriate for you this evening. All right. Good. And we are just having a look. Welcome, Madeline. Come into the group. Okay. So there's two poses to choose from, Madeline, for this first position. The number one pose is either lying on your front, just lying on your front prone on the floor with your legs apart, so maybe your feet as wide apart as the mat, and then your arms in a V shape and your forehead on the floor. And you might like to prop your forehead up with something. Or if you don't want to lie on your tummy, you're in a supported child's pose. So you want to have your arms long, your head down, but maybe your body supported by a bolster, okay? So you're going to be a bit like this. Now, there's something really quite delicious about these earth-facing poses. Because when we are forwards, when we are face down like this, I mean, you might be very used to it. You might enjoy sleeping like this. on your tummy, for instance, maybe your head, your hand like supporting your underneath your pillow. But it might be quite a natural place, but for some of us it isn't. However, what it allows you to do is it allows you to completely sink your body weight into the earth, which will feel, or hopefully feel, quite different from how it might do when you're lying on your back. Often when we lay on our backs, we feel as though there's a little bit of an appearance, if you like, to maintain. What I get when I lay on my tummy on the floor, when I lay out flat, is I get gradually the feeling that I've sort of gone splat. And I quite enjoy that. So I want you to be relaxed. I want your shoulders to be relaxed. Now, if you've got your arms in a V shape, palms are facing down, I want you to make sure that the fingers are soft and that the shoulders are at ease. But if this gives you any sensation in your arms, pins and needles maybe, or numbness in your fingers, then I want you to change your arm position. Of course, you must do that. And we're going to think about the practice of Asteya, which is one of when we explore the limbs of yoga, it is it means not to steal, interestingly enough. And whenever I describe the yamas and the niyamas to my students, they're so similar to the Ten Commandments. There's these kind of religious concepts. They're so similar, aren't they? And of course, it's obvious, isn't it? Yes, we shouldn't steal. It's wrong to take something that is not ours, to take something that doesn't belong to us. So it seems quite obvious, but actually there's quite a deeper level to this yama, and it means try not to, or don't take from yourself. And that's what we have here. We have in this pose this opportunity to completely surrender ourselves into the earth. And we are offering ourselves time, the opportunity for complete stillness, the softness, for relaxation. And so we're giving something back to ourselves. We often, if you like, we're so busy, aren't we, that we don't find time for these sorts of practices. And, you know, not controversially, but, you know, I can't think of the word that I'm looking for, it will come to me in a minute. But one of the benefits of this lockdown situation is this time that we've had together regularly practicing. Because we're at home, we're not traveling, we're not commuting, we're not dashing around with our busy lives. So lives have got a little bit slower, I hope, for you. And we are able to set this time aside for our practices. So we're giving something back rather than taking something away. So Asteya, the yama of Asteya, not to steal, is very much a practical thing, because they are very much how we live our lives in the society that we live in, but they are also relevant to ourselves on an individual level. And it means, as you get deeper into it, it means try not to compare yourself with other people or other things, rather than always thinking, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I was going here, or I want to be doing that. Instead, we have to be grateful and present in this moment. And they say, don't they, that happiness comes from being aware of everything we have got. And the more we can practice that in a gratitude sense, the happier we become. And so that's our theme for tonight, okay? So we're giving something back. And we're going to think about what we can do, what we have got, where we're at now, rather than wondering or looking forward to or wishing life was different. Okay? So I'm going to leave you for the next minute or so just to take some breaths on your own. And hopefully your bones have got a little bit heavier and you might be starting to notice the tension beginning to dissolve from different parts of your body. So enjoy these next few breaths and I'll check in with you in about a minute and a half. All right, so these are your last couple of breaths here. And then when you feel ready, I'd like you to support yourself as you lift yourself up to all fours and to bring yourself back into child's pose. So if you were in child's pose, maybe come into cat-cow so that you can rock between the two. But if you were laying on your front, lie yourself into a little child's pose for just a minute. Because you may have noticed that lying on your front creates a little bit of a back bend, just a very, very mild one. But yeah, so if that was the case, just coming back into a child's pose can just bring some of the flexion and the length back into the low back. Okay. So then let's pick ourselves up and let's just have a little bit of a think about another surrendering pose. So we're going to come into melting heart. And this really is a gesture of giving in again and of being generous to the earth, because we're surrendering ourselves down into the earth. But also it's a very much a heart opening pose. And so this is helping us to stay within the heart center and to be open and generous with our feelings. And that means towards ourselves as well. So I'll give you a couple of options as normal, but I would say double up your mat or kneel onto a blanket if that's going to help you with your knees. Your hips need to stay above the knees. And I'll move my props out of the way. I want you to come down into a pose that looks like this. So your chin and your chest are moving towards the ground. Now you might find that your small block, your thin block, helps you by giving you something to rest down towards, rest the heart or the front of the chest onto. You might find that you need something a little bit higher up. So you could take your pillows, your bolster, thickly folded up towel over the front of the bolster and actually really quite physically drop the front of the chest down and stretch the arms forwards. I know it's another arm stretching position, an arm extension, So if you want to have the arms out in a different position, experiment. You can do this, sometimes we call this a puppy dog pose. And then there is a half puppy dog where you take your forearm across your mat and rest your forehead on the forearm and just stretch one arm forward. So you'll feel this much more into the shoulder, but you will still get the heart opening shape, maybe just not so intensely. So if you find it hard to extend through the upper part of the back, which I'd thoroughly recommend that you do often because it's a good practice to have. But if you find it tricky or one arm or one shoulder doesn't like it, then rest your forehead on your forearm and stretch just one arm forwards instead of the full pose. You're not going to be here for very long, okay? So just 2 to 3 minutes at the most. And if you feel that, no, it's just not for me whatsoever, then you could come into Sphinx pose instead. And so you're more propped upright, but you're still getting the same shape for the upper part of your back. Yeah, so it takes a little bit of playing around, a little bit of adjusting. Do what you feel comfortable with doing. Some of you might like to look forwards towards the top end of your mat, so you're more bringing your chin onto the mat. If that's too great a movement for the neck, keep the forehead on the floor and you can have the eyes closed, of course you can. All right, so we're going to stay here for just 2 more minutes now. So really focus on your breath and focus on your exhalation, please. And I want you to, as you exhale, I want you to feel the generosity within your own heart. And when we do this, I want you to do what we've been doing so often, which is to offer your practice to someone or something else. But this time, specifically think about someone else, either in the past or the present, doesn't matter. But think about someone else who has looked after you, someone who's taken care of you, who's supported you. And you might have this going on at this very moment, or it might have been somebody in the past who has looked after you. And I want you to think about their generosity, their open-heartedness, and the times when they saw that you needed their help. Okay, and so you are therefore on an energetic level, you are giving something back. You took what you needed to take at the time, which was the right thing to do. And then when we're in a position that we're in now, okay, melting heart pose might not feel like the most relaxed position in the world, but nevertheless, we're in a position generally where we're all here together. We're practicing our yoga all together in this lovely community we have. And we are able then to give something back, even if it's just on an energetic level. Okay, it's so powerful and it's so important to do. So keep breathing. You're going to stay here for just another 30 seconds. If you need to come out sooner, you can come back into child's pose again. So breathing gently in and out, so walking your hands slowly back and starting to peel yourself away. And as you come up, bring the hands underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips, and round through the back body as you drop the chin towards the chest and gently lengthen the back of your neck. Okay. And then breathing back in and coming back to a neutral spine. Very nice. Breathing out and gently rolling into a curved shape, tailbone pointing down. And then in, just gently back to a neutral position. And this is the rebound. This is the bit that feels sometimes the most enjoyable. So do this one more time, breathing out, spreading the shoulder blades apart, press the palms into the floor, and then gently come back. Okay. So I think it'd be quite nice to do a little bit of a twist now. And we are going to do twisting tiger. So you could use your bolster and have it in front of a long ways, or you've got your supports, which is your blankets, your cushions, pillows, whatever you have. Remember that you can practice this pose without the bolster. So we did this a couple of weeks ago and it's exactly the same. You just don't have this slightly elevated support. Some of you might need extra height. So you might want to think about putting extra things under your bolster to prop it up even higher. Okay, it's like 20 degrees, that sort of thing, that kind of, you know, that 15-degree angle. So the bolster or the supports, if you're using them, they nestle right into the side of your body. And then I've got my legs crossed in a bit of a zigzag. I've got one knee resting on the top of one foot. So it's quite comfortable. If you're starting to get chilly, have your blanket to hand so that you can, once you get settled, you can kind of wrap yourself into your blanket like that so that you can stay warm. Okay, and then we come into this pose as we exhale. So as we inhale, I want you to lift and lengthen the spine up and lift the pelvic floor slightly. Keep it lifted so that as you exhale, you turn to face your bolster and you lie down, arms either side of it. And if you can, turn your head away from the direction of your knees. But if you can't, start with your head facing the same way as the knees, and then you can turn the head in a moment or two's time. Okay, so we're going to be about 3 minutes on this side, and then we'll do 3 minutes on the other side. You might need to lift up, lift the pelvic floor again, breathe out and come a little bit deeper, turn a little bit more, and you know, find your edge. Okay, find the edge of it being sort of too easy, because you don't want to be here and not have any sensation going on at all, but you don't also want it to be too strenuous. You don't want to be here not being able to breathe, not being able to relax a little. Okay, so just so that you can see, for those of you that you've not got a bolster, you're still in the same leg position, you're still turning around and looking over towards the other side, or you keep your head facing the same way. And what you do with your arms when you don't have a bolster is completely up to you. So you could have one arm up alongside your ear and the other arm down, and that's quite nice. Both arms out to the sides, horizontal with the shoulders. That's quite nice. So feel free to have a play. We've done quite a lot of extension of the arms alongside the ears. So if you don't want to do that again, then that's fine. Okay. And this is another pose, isn't it? We are facing the earth, facing down. We are using the props to support us. So we are allowing for that to happen. We are allowing you, and it really is the case of allowing your body weight to settle into the surface beneath it. And this is so important for this practice. This idea that we can give in a little bit every now and then, and that to show our frailty, our tenderness, we think of it or see it as sort of our weaker side, don't we? That we're very much in this big blazing full moon part of the month, and there's this femininity associated with being tender and soft and yielding. And I want you to really drop into that sense and allow yourself to be there. So as you breathe, every exhalation that you take, allow the breath to nourish your body and for you to release whatever it is that you want to let go of tonight. Okay, so just one more minute here on this side. If you need to adjust, if you want to come a little bit deeper, please go for it. Okay. So wait for an inhalation, wait for yourself to be ready, and gently peel yourself away from your support and unravel your spine back to a central balanced position, and pause there, taking a few breaths in and out as you regain your sense of equilibrium. Okay, you might want to release your legs, you may need to straighten them out, you might want to wiggle toes, you might want to roll your ankle joints. And then you can come to repeat the same pose but on the other side. So turn your body around, face the other side of your mat. Allow your legs to rest comfortably. And then you can remember to come in on the exhalation. So breathe in and up your spine to make sure there's plenty of this lifting and spaciousness, the sense of, and then rotating as you breathe out to turn to face the floor or face your support. See if you can turn your head all of the way, but if it feels as though it's a move too much, start with the head facing the same way as the knees, and then bring the extra rotation in a little bit later. Okay. So again, use the support, whether it's the support of the earth, whether it's the support you're feeling from the bolster or the props that you are using. Allow yourself to be held, and for this time to be a time that is nourishing you. Think about your breath as being smooth, easy. Reminding ourselves that this breath work is our source of energy. And we need to pay attention to how we breathe. And make a priority easing the breath, breathing deeply, nourishing our body, looking after our body, and being grateful for everything that is around us, because sometimes that simple act of pausing, of standing still, and just taking 10 slow breaths in and out, and reminding ourselves of all that it is that we have in our lives already. Our lives so full, we have so much. Notice the parts of your body that are still maybe holding tightly on, where you've been unable to release tension. And use your breath. See if you can find some relief now, this last minute of the pose. You could use this last minute to deepen the twist if you want to a little bit by lifting up and turning a little bit more, but only do that. We're not looking, we don't want to take away from what we've already achieved. And sometimes enjoying where we're at in the pose after these couple of minutes, where the difficulty, if you like, or the intensity has eased off, and we are able to be fully present with where we are. So it's a very fine balance, isn't it? We sometimes want slightly deeper twist, especially if we're looking to loosen a bit of tension around the spine, around the rib cage, the upper back. We hold a lot of tension there. And this pose gives us a great opportunity for that. But it's all about the balance, isn't it? Okay. So in your own time, thinking about leaving the pose, exiting the pose, coming back up and maybe stretching out the legs or just being upright, sitting for a moment. Okay. So we're going to come into an oldie but a goodie, okay, a classic. So you might want a few things for this. You're definitely going to need something to lie over, coming into reclining mermaid. Ideally, it's a bolster. If it's not, it's a couple of thick cushions or pillows. If you've just got the pillows off of your bed, then a nice thing to do, if you've got two of them, is to tie them together with a dressing gown belt or an old pair of tights. You could, if you're not bothered about the pillow, if they are able to, you can fold them in half, and that gives you a sort of more bolster shaped support. But if you haven't got anything like that, don't worry, just use a couple of thick towels or a couple of blankets or something that you can lay over. And then you're going to need another blanket or something that you can roll up that's going to support the side of the neck. And then you might want something that looks like a brick, and that's going to go near the head, and that's going to be for you to rest your hand onto in a minute. So anything, whether it's a footstool or just a couple of big books, would do great just for that. And then the pose starts without the knee doesn't want to be near this support. It needs to be a bit lower down. And then this leg's also, both knees are bent, but they're a little bit more casually bent, as though imagine you're just sort of draped in a really elegant manner along your mat. Excuse me. So the bolster is quite supporting of the side body. If you find this bottom hip lifts off the floor, you must put something underneath it. And I want you to get your whole arm right from your shoulder all the way to the back of your wrist on the floor. And then the rolled up blanket goes into the side of the neck to support the neck. But you want a side stretch. You want to be able to feel this all the way along this lateral edge of your body and indeed the spine. The arm starts on your side. You could rest it here. If you have a shoulder injury, then the hand can rest onto the side of the rib cage, and you can roll it back, roll the elbow back slightly if you want to, or you can just rest your arm wherever is comfortable. For those without shoulder injuries or those looking to get that full length along the side of the body, cartwheeling the arm alongside the ear and letting the fingertips rest over the edge of the block or the brick. Some people, if you've got it to hand, some people like to put an extra support on this side of the neck too. like another rolled up, like a rolled up hand towel is great in there, and that just stops this top shoulder from collapsing down. And then eventually, once you're in this sort of a position, your top leg just gently straightens and lengthens away. So you've still got the inside edge of your foot resting on the floor. You can take this bottom foot and just put it underneath the knee there so the knee feels a little bit supported. It might not touch onto it. You could put something there if you need a bit of support there. But the idea is, whatever the top edge of your body is, you've got this very lovely, very delicious long stretch along the side of the body. And I want you to come into this pose particularly and close your eyes and allow yourself to really settle and become still here. We're not going to do loads of the add-ons. Sometimes we add on another couple of stages of this pose, but for tonight's practice, we're just concentrating on this side body and the effect of having all these wonderful supports underneath us that allow us to create these shapes in our spine and in the rest of our body. We're just removing a layer of tension, of tightness, some of the stresses that we carry that sit in our spine, sit in our joints. And after a while, we don't work on releasing them on a physical level, then they'll start to bug us on an emotional level. So this practice, or these yoga practices, are so nourishing, not only for the body but also for the state of the mind. Okay. So one last thing before I be quiet for a few minutes and leave you to enjoy the pose, is to think about your breathing. So those of you familiar with this pose will be familiar, we normally do a full 4-part breath. So we divide the inhalation into 4 equal parts as we breathe up the side of the body. And on the exhale, it's just one long, smooth exhalation as we imagine the breath traveling down the length of the body. So I want you to start your awareness at the hip, okay? And the first part of the breath, the first quarter of the breath, you breathe up and into the waist. The second part of the breath, I want you to breathe up into the side of the rib cage. The third part of the breath, breathe around the top shoulder. And then the fourth part of the breath today, breathe around the throat, the neck, the side of the neck, maybe up into the side of the head. And then breathe out smoothly, back down the side of the body, back down to the outer hip where you begin your awareness again. And you're breathing in 4 distinct stages. You can pause a tiny bit in between each stage if you want, or the inhalation can be smooth and flowing, but your attention travels to those 4 areas. So it's entirely your choice. And if you think, no, I don't want to do this tonight, or your mind is too busy, you're not able to switch it off, then don't take from your practice, okay? Just be content with whatever it is that you feel you need to be doing. And if it's just breathing, just being still, having your eyes closed and not having to do too much else, then that in itself will be what you are needing. All right. So I'm going to let you do that for about 1.5 minutes, and I'll check back in with you then. Okay, so if you are taking a 4-part breath, do one more round, please. And then you can return your breathing to normal. And I'd like you to gently bring the top arm back down by your side, bend the top leg, and you can support yourself with your hands as you lift yourself back upright. And again, just like we did for Twisting Tiger, think about just staying upright, maybe moving the ankles, maybe stretching out the legs, whatever it is that you feel that your body would like to unwind and to rebalance. And then we are going to do the same pose on the other side. So you can just turn yourself around, keep all your props roughly where they are as they are, and you can settle yourself into side 2. Okay, so remember, not too tightly crossed, bent knees, because it's about the length that you're putting in for the top side of the body. So eventually the top leg will straighten out. So think about that, but remember the whole of the arm all the way up to the shoulder needs to be on the floor, as does the hip need to be on the ground. And if it's not on the ground, it is okay for the hip to lift as long as you put something underneath it. It is not okay for the shoulder to be off of the floor. It must be on the floor here, because that is one of the foundation points of the pose. All right. The side of the neck needs to be supported, so it's not just dangling. Your head isn't just resting on the floor. Really wedge something into the side of your neck. So then what happens when the bottom edge of the neck is supported? The top side can gently lengthen with release because you have the support. And that's the lovely thing about this type of yin yoga. The very nature of the supports mean we feel held, and in that feeling of safety, we are able to release a little bit more. Top arm cartwheels up and over your head. Remember to adjust your arm should you need to honour where your shoulder is at today. And begin to straighten the top leg when you're ready, and settle into this lovely long lengthened side body stretch. You want to feel this. You're probably going to feel this in the skin, probably feel this around ligaments and tendons, but also just think of your spine too, just gently curving over the edge of your supports. Closing your eyes, letting your breath become smooth and steady. And whenever you are ready, going back to the 4-part inhalation, 1-part exhale. I'm going to stay here for about 3 minutes. I'm going to let you luxuriate, let you marinate, as they say. In this final moment, this final minute of the pose, if you want to let your breathing return to normal, and just enjoy being present with the natural, smooth inhalation and exhalation, please do. Okay. So when you're ready, and taking as much time as you need, floating the top arm back down by your side, bending the top knee, rolling a little bit forwards and supporting yourself with your hands as you come up to sit. Good. Okay, so we're going to come into our final pose of the evening, which will be bamboo garden, so legs up in the air. So we're going to take an inversion. And you might want this inversion to be just a mild one tonight. So you might just want to, if you've got a bit of wall space, you could just take your bottom towards the wall and just lie with your legs up in the air. We practice this fairly frequently in class, so most of you are familiar. If you have a bolster, then I would, or a couple of firm pillows or blankets, then I would encourage you to lie with your hips supported by those. Those of you that want to get a little bit more on the inversion could put more support. So what you can see is I've got 2 blocks here, also underneath my bolster. Now my bolster is very thin anyway, so it might not be, if your bolster is very new, it will be very compact still. It will be nice and firm. So yes, so come into the pose. Make sure that it's the back of your hips which is supported, and gently release yourself down into the pose, making sure that you do feel supported, that your shoulders are on the floor, that your body weight is moving into your shoulders, and your legs are moving upwards towards the ceiling. Now you could take your arms, loosely around the top of your head and just rest them there, or they could be out wide to the sides. Your choice completely, but do make sure that you feel nice and at ease here, okay? There should be an effortlessness to having the legs up high. And if you've got something heavy that you could rest maybe over your forehead, and heavy, by heavy I mean if you've got something like an extra blanket, even if it's an eye pillow, it's really nice to have an eye pillow, especially if it's got a bit of weight to it. But just something to rest maybe over the eyes or over the forehead is quite nice. Now I know it might seem a little bit weird, but these bricks, they're actually quite light. They're not too bad. But just to rest something over your forehead like this, you might have to find the sweet spot for it to stay there, can actually be quite soothing. Okay. So do feel free to have a little bit of a play with that. And we'll just leave it like that. Leave it just breathing, and you're going to spend maybe just 2 or 3 minutes here. Okay. Maybe for this last minute of the pose, if you would like to do circles with your ankles, or indeed take the legs into a different position, please experiment, please explore. All right. So before we make our way out of the pose, I'd like you to hug your knees towards your chest, please. Those of you with your legs in the air. And then carefully roll yourself to one side, just easing any supports away from you. And then you can come round and up to sit. And we'll finish our practice this evening with a very simple but very beautiful meditation. So I'd like you to just come and sit in any comfortable position. So whether that's cross-legged or kneeling, support with your bolster or whatever you need to underneath the sit bones. Okay. So do make sure that you can sit with a nice free spine, let your sit bones feel grounded. And I'd like you to bring your hands together in front of your heart, if you like. So I want you to rub your hands together and generate a little bit of friction here, a little bit of warmth. And this is called a handful of flowers. So what I want you to do is keep rubbing, keep getting lots of friction. And you can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. But now what I want you to do is gently open your palms up, keeping your little fingers touching together. And either close your eyes or open them, but imagine that your hand is full of beautiful flower petals. And you can feel them there. You can feel them in your hands, sitting lightly. And if the breeze was to blow, a few of them would float away, carried on the wind. But they stay also in your hands, looking beautiful, smelling absolutely delightful. So breathe in and out and imagine their scent and see all of their bright, vibrant beauty. And remember your capacity to both offer and to receive. And then when you feel that the sensation in your palms has faded sufficiently, and it will do naturally, it will gradually just ebb away. You can let the visualization of the petals fade. But if one or two remain, I'd like you to gently close your hands, close your palms together, and visualize that in the central space of your palms, you can bring your hands to Anjali Mudra at your heart center. And in that central space of your palms that's said to represent the space inside your heart, I'd like you to put the last few remaining beautiful petals. Breathe them in and out. Just let your chin fall towards your chest now. Take one or two more breaths in and out. Remind yourself now of who you dedicated your practice to at the beginning. Maybe you'd like to send some of those petals to them. Take another breath in and another breath out. As you inhale, gently open your eyes. Well done to you all. Namaste. Good job. Lovely. Okay, well done everybody.